battery?
No, I didn't hit record.
Now you're going?
Now I'm going.
We should learn how to harmonize snap the Fireside tune.
I think it's a good idea.
Welcome to the Fireside.
That's
Party people can.
This works out better.
No, it's better.
This audio track, there's no like clamp or snap or anything.
Oh, so you have to. It's still a crapshoot.
So,
No.
Oh, that's better. We'll both do it. But when we're doing it like that, back and forth, it probably doesn't help at all.
I'm only listening to one track at a time.
Oh, shit.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, there you go.
But now we
just
learn
solved
something every day.
We just solved all of our editors' problems.
Thank you.
No, you didn't.
Oh.
Oh, well. Hey, welcome to Fireside
Welcome
Tats.
back. Thank you.
Episode 41 of the premier tattoo education podcast for
Premier.
tattoo artists and sometimes collectors
Yeah.
and sometimes tattoo haters.
You got to have some haters, too. That's fun.
That's fine. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, we talked about how to build and maybe maintain a clientele.
Yeah, that was a
how do
question
you-
that we got.
I think it's a good one.
Yeah, so how do you build and maintain a clientele? Before we get into it, though, go over to firesidetats.com and join our mailing list. And when you finish that, hop on over to iTunes because we don't give iTunes enough love.
Yeah, we love you, iTunes.
And if you go over there and leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment, David will give you 5 hours of free tattoo time.
That's really not the truth.
That's not the truth.
But
We'd appreciate it, though.
yeah, we'll answer any of your questions.
Yeah.
We'll take the time out of our busy daily lives to
Yep.
help you with some tattoo-related whatever. Or life questions. I'm
Further
sure
your
we could
tattoo
probably.
education. Man,
probably
they
could
can
jump
ask
in
you
on
some
some
life
of-
questions,
yeah.
and you could point them in the right direction.
I'll
As a
help.
matter of fact, I don't know if it's going to get edited out, but I learned just sitting here just now that it only takes $20 to get rid of someone.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. Well, we talked about it only briefly, but it's that price point on a friendship. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, can I borrow this money? And be like, yes, absolutely, but if you don't pay it back, I don't want to ever see you again. You put that on
20.
top of it, and it's good.
That's good.
I think it's an easy way to
you
get
say
rid of.
$20 is the amount that they
I think
really
that's a
won't come
minimum.
back.
I think you probably can't get rid of many people. Like $20, they'll just like try to weed around. Maybe you see them at a party later, and they'll give you
oh,
said that
man,
excuse. But
that
we talked
$20 I owe
said,
you.
how much would you? It's like I don't think it should be over $200.
No.
At $100, $200 range. That's as much as you give a person, and then boom.
Any
they
more
want
than that,
money
you could have
yeah.
gotten rid of them for less.
I think so. Probably like a TV or a appliance or some other crazy
Like an
thing.
old PlayStation when the new PlayStation comes out.
Exactly, with like one controller. Be like, yeah, but if I give you this,
I don't ever want to see you
never,
again.
ever.
There you go. Thanks for tuning in to episode 41.
41. This one's going to be good. Last one was really good too.
Yeah, the one about the inks I thought was really good. It's not out just yet, so I don't know what kind of feedback we've gotten. But I hope people watch it and
definitely.
and,
That was our
pitch
science
in on it.
episode. You should, if you weren't there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was I hope that one stimulates some conversation. Yeah, you never know what people are gonna like find interest in. But I think that one, especially some people may know. Maybe a scientist stumbles onto the episode who really doesn't know a lot about tattooing, but knows a lot about Cinnabar.
Yep. And helps maybe
cadmium.
refine the industry. Hopefully you can find something that's a little safer, that has a little bit probably a longer life than some of the other ones that we were talking about, especially some colors.
Yeah.
Really reduced half-life on some of those.
Right. A good episode. Anyways, let's get into this one.
How do you
build and maintain?
It's a hard one.
Yeah, we were just talking about it a little bit before the show, and I wasn't really thinking about building the clientele. I guess I was thinking more about maintaining. But you mentioned something about having email lists and stuff like that, and that's really there are probably people that could guide you in building a clientele better than we can, because neither of us really do a lot of marketing for ourselves online.
It's true.
But I bet building a clientele, there are some online marketers, maybe that aren't even tattoo related, that could really teach you how to build a system where you got your work out there, got it seen, collected email addresses.
Right.
And the value in that would be that obviously that whenever you maybe didn't have a tattoo to do, you could shoot out some drawings that you've done and say, hey, I'm open next Thursday. I would love to do this piece.
Exactly.
Give me a
Especially if
call.
you've got some time ahead of time. You can show some people your work and then give an opportunity to come in on those open times you have. You know?
But if they don't know, then they can't show up. And
That's right.
So yeah, I mean that's something that's changed significantly since the two of us started tattooing, because there was really no way to market your work outside of going to conventions and people physically looking at your portfolio.
Right, having a portfolio, or maybe every once in a while getting that magazine article where you get, and
that was huge for people in the late
jump-started
90s,
a lot
early
of careers,
2000s.
and a lot of people got a lot of, that was the only way you could really see some people's work, and even that was sometimes a year or two after they were already kind of getting into their stride and stuff. You're seeing a lot of old work, not really a lot of new work, unless they show up at those conventions.
Yeah, and that's something that's really changed a lot in the last 10, 15 years.
Absolutely.
You can get your work out early on. Now that can be a detriment too, because some people are overconfident in their work at early on in their career, and they put out a lot of terrible work. I had some bad photos in my portfolio to fill space, but luckily back then it was only people that walked into the shop that saw it. Yeah. Now you throw it out there, and who knows who's going to see it? So it could go either way. But you're
getting feedback then, though.
You're getting feedback.
Like, what the hell is this going on? Like, maybe I should take that out. Like, maybe because it doesn't work towards some of the body of work you really want to show anymore. Or what kind of direction you've really gone into, especially if you're trying to drop off other stuff, different styles. Like, if you don't want to do lettering anymore, don't put lettering in your book anymore. You don't want to do tribal, don't put tribal. If you don't want to do certain styles, you want to direct it a little bit. Try to really weed that out, and you'll find people that are really drawn toward the pieces you do. That you want to do.
Yeah. I think that I built a clientele early on when I probably wasn't a good enough artist to have as good of a clientele. I think you probably did too, just because you took the tattoos that came in and you were kind to people and you listened to what they had to say, and you tried to make them comfortable while they were getting tattooed, and they left thinking it was a positive experience, and then they come back just for that. So I think you can build I think sometimes subpar tattoo artists build a pretty decent following. We talked about it maybe on an episode or two ago about just comfort level. People get comfortable with you, and they get comfortable with you because you're cordial and you have some kind of bedside manner, and you're not standoffish. And, that's tough for a lot of artists. We know from going to conventions and artists not making eye contact that a lot of people struggle with it.
I think a lot of artists struggle with like that one-on-one contact in general, because they're not used to it. I mean, most of the things they draw probably don't talk back or don't respond. And so when you have to really work with a person as a canvas, then that really shows in some artists where they just don't they don't want to have interaction, or they're really standoffish enough that it doesn't work to their. Maybe they're good enough artist, of course, that you're always going to do good work. But you'll definitely know those artists that will have nothing to do with their clientele and stuff like that, or people that have had bad experiences because of probably stuff like that, like trying to not remembering that it's not a canvas, that it is a person. To a certain extent, there's a lot of emotional levels that go with tattooing, and if you can't respond on those, it makes it harder as an artist to kind of deal with a client that may be having issues that you can get over within 5 or 10 minutes, or maybe it's time to stop. It's just maybe time to reschedule, or you can't always push people past certain points, That's what I've kind of found too. It's
I think so. And the less personable you are, and the less at ease that you make your client, the more you have to be able to read those things, because they're surely not going to tell you however they're feeling if they're not comfortable with you at all. So you really make your own job harder when you put your client on their heels to begin with. And I know no one does that intentionally, but a lot of artists, I know for a fact, do it just because it's part of their personality.
Yeah, and I think what happens sometimes too is if you're not working with people that are like local clientele, maybe you're a little more standoffish anyway. I think that comes with it.
Working out of town.
Yeah, working out of town, working at conventions, working at stuff like that. Sometimes you may not be the friendliest. You may not be in your kind of
in your comfort zone,
your vibe, and stuff like that.
That's a good point.
So
I'm sure that's a big part of it.
If you're getting, probably work at conventions and stuff, sometimes you'll notice that it's like, oh wow, they didn't talk a whole lot, but they were probably trying to drown out a lot of the stuff that's going on around there. It's probably nothing like their shop. You're probably, like you said, getting there probably at the worst element for them. Yeah, not at their best.
That's true. I mean, if you think about people that you've been tattooed, or you knew them in their own shop, or in your shop doing a guest spot and getting comfortable for a week or 2 weeks, and then you run into them at a convention and see how standoffish or I don't know, uncomfortable a lot of people are, you can read it because you know them in another environment. Right. So anyways, you know,
out of their element sometimes.
Yeah, just being out of their element. So, you know, if you're an artist that struggles with that, I mean, there are plenty of specialists in that, like in that field about putting yourself through. We actually did a great episode last year with Mike Bledsoe at that Austin convention that got formatted over, and the episode never came out. But the whole episode was about overcoming shyness as an artist, or kind of like exercises for introverts, basically.
That's a good.
And he had a lot of really good simple exercises. You know, putting yourself in situations that you know you're not comfortable with for 5-10 minutes at a time in small doses, trying to find a way to cope, and then being able to back out of those situations and think, what could I have done differently?
Is that like imagine them in their underwear? Or
imagine them in their underwear. That always works.
That's right.
Yeah, all that stuff. So there are specialists in that if you struggle with that. But obviously, bringing, developing the clientele, artwork aside, hopefully you're putting out the best work that you can. Developing the clientele is going to be, is really going to have a lot to do with your bedside manner and first off your marketing, getting people in the door. Right. But if you don't have enough work to market, even if you don't have enough if you're new in tattooing, you're an apprentice and you're just trying to get your foot in the door, just taking everyone seriously that comes in the door and like looking them in the eyes and smiling and asking them what they want, asking questions and people.
I think asking questions is probably one of the bigger things, and then also trying to remember, like I always try to say, don't say no like right off the gun. Try to understand where they're coming from, and then give people options. That's probably one of the best things you can do. If you can't do what they want, if you don't work in that certain style or whatever, if you, like I said, just help them, and they'll thank you for it, even if you don't end up doing a piece for them. If you can kind of steer them in the right direction, you might still they'll still come into your shop. Maybe then later you can tell them something that you can do. If, like I said, it's always like, what do you really want? What do you think I can do? How can I kind of like translate what you want? And and like I said, some people you never get on that same vibe, but a lot of people,
sometimes you don't.
That's what that extra little minute, like, well, let's go over. Like, don't just say no. Try to give them options, and I guarantee you'll make
whether or not you never do a tattoo on the person or make a dime off of that person, it all comes back around, And if they leave thinking that you made an effort, then they'll have nice things to say about you in the long run. Whenever they see someone else and say, "Hey, who did your tattoo?" and that person says your name, and you go, "Oh yeah, they didn't do my tattoo, but I met them. They were a nice guy or whatever." I think it comes back.
It comes back, and then hopefully when they do maybe want something that's in your realm or in your vein or in your style, they come right to you. I'm just giving that out as a, sometimes not every person that comes in the door is going to be your customer. Even if you can guide them to someone that maybe is in, that does something a little better in that same shop, you're not going to lose anything from it. You're just going to, make a new friend, and hopefully,
what you'll find is they'll start looking for something that is in a style that you want to do. Yeah. You'll find that they start asking you whenever the other person's tattooing. I'm like, so what do you like to do? What do you tattoo? Are you like color or black and gray? They'll ask because you hit it off with them and they want to get something from you at that point.
Sometimes those people that'll fill those days that you were talking about before too. When you're popping online and actually showing stuff, they're actually following your stuff because they've talked to you. They know you are. They know your work in the shop and probably the other artists as well. And they might jump on a chance like that.
Yeah. Okay, so maintaining. I mean, you've got a client, and you're trying to maintain your client base. This is probably incredibly obvious, but I mean, just putting out the best work that you can. I mean, just really taking your time and communicating with the people. And I know that I have some long-term clientele that watches this show that will say that I'm the worst at communicating with them, and I just show up with a drawing on the last day. But it took us a long time to get to the point where there was that trust level. I could not have done that.
Doesn't always have to be with an image.
It doesn't always have to be with an image. Well, I think about them a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about them.
Right.
But now I would have not kept them this long if I were doing that the entire time. At some point your clientele, you have a good feeling of what they like and what they don't like, and you know that you can put it together and they trust you, or maybe I'm just pushing.
I'm just saying you also have clients that say they probably trust you enough with the drawing that when they show up, If there's anything that you want to change or if they want to change, it's probably easy to do on the fly. It's not a major change.
Absolutely.
And that probably comes down to just like having a lot of that communication on the front end.
Yeah.
If they've talked to you and they know you well enough, I think that happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if there is some crazy thing, you reschedule it for another week or two out. I mean, as long as they're not traveling or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, I would come in on an off day to keep someone from having to wait too long when it was my mistake. But early on, you've built a clientele, you're trying to maintain them. You probably don't want to do that. You probably want to communicate. You probably want to, especially if it's someone that seems like that you've already tattooed 3, 4, 5 times. You're starting to do more and more on. Start to shoot over multiple compositional sketches. Maybe try to give them an option or two, or to communicate. Don't just send short emails if you communicate that way. Send a well thought out email about the image or the idea or whatever it is. Just make sure that you're communicating, I think, and that people want to go where they're comfortable.
Yeah, I tend to make sure too that when you get done with a piece, one of the things that I always try to do is like remind them, look, if you need to change or you want anything done to it, just let me know. I'm always here. I'm here for questions. We have a mail slot. I'm here like through a certain time period, Tuesday through Saturday, But then it's like, look, if it's been a month or two, and especially, some people's work, it changes a little here or there, and they want to just punch stuff. I mean, I always have, I like that little last through, maybe a touch-up appointment that it's maybe an hour or two looking through, especially if it's a really large piece. If you get done with like a, really big piece and they live in that town, you should take, time and out of your, own time to kind of punch through the stuff.
Especially a piece that you already have,
that's what I say. If it's
got
got
of hours into
20 hours into, you should just make sure that you pull a couple hours just to look through it, just to make sure. And that doesn't just ensure that they'll come back, but it also ensures that you're trying to guarantee your work. It's like, look, I know this is a long-term process. I might not see you for another year, but when I get done with something, I want it to be done. I don't want it to be something that you think that is, we're hanging on to, and that I need to, in a couple more years, we could really work this out again. No, it should be something at that point. Like I said, if there's any last minute little things that they want, and that way, I know it's not a little final goodbye, but it's like so that you are saying goodbye to your piece in a little bit too. Get your last photos and stuff like that, and then, like I said, it kind of ensures that, like I said, if they see anything, they have a real chance to come back to
bring
you.
it up. Because they've looked at it, and there's something that may stand out to them that never would have stood out to you.
And that's why I have like almost like a 3-month touch-up policy, just in case, because it takes a while to get it back to skin tone and level, and make sure that it looks good and healed. And that's when you really get good photos, though, too. I mean, we've talked about that.
And it really does let people know that you want to, that you care about the work, and you want to make sure that you're putting the best product out there, especially when it's a free
long term.
That you're adding an hour, at the end of it. And I do that. I schedule touch-up times, and I treat it that way too. I don't charge for them, and it's always amazing that people are always amazed that they don't owe anything, because I never think to tell them on the front end that it's a free touch up. I always say, I just want to look through it one more time, let me schedule an hour, and they're fine with it, and then I guess they expect to pay for that hour, and then they come back and I say, no, well, it's a touch up, I was just looking through it, and they're like, oh really, wow, well, yeah, thanks.
It's a nod to them. It's a nod to your work. It's a little. I think it really helps, though. I think one of those long-term things that will help you with customers and help them actually be able to like talk to you about their work too. A lot of times, it seems like you just you don't. I mean, I don't just slap it on and then you never see them again. But that gives them a chance that they have any last-minute stuff, any color corrections, anything that they just see that you can't see because they're really staring at it. I think that just gives them an opportunity to say their last goodbyes or whatever.
Yeah. So building the clientele is probably the challenge. Maintaining it's probably not that hard.
Be nice.
Be nice.
Be a dickhead.
Do good work. Be a good guy or lady.
Maybe don't drink at work.
Don't drink at work.
Don't do crazy stuff. Try not to hit on them.
Show up before the person getting the tattoo, if at all possible, and get your station set up so they can come in and not have to sit and wait on you.
Well, I guess like I said, I probably set my station up, but only to a certain degree. Like I don't open needles or open A&D.
Because that's a jinx.
Because that's a jinx, yeah. That's a whole other show. We won't get into the tattoo gods at all.
All right. Let's take a break
out there. Okay.
Take a break, because I think our next one's going to take longer. We're already at 20 minutes.
You think so? Well, hopefully wrap that up.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks. We'll see you in a minute.
Thanks, man.
What were you about to say?
So when we do move into that other room, it would be nice to have some room to move a camera around.
That's not going to
It's
happen.
actually a smaller room, but
But we don't have as much.
we don't have as much stuff though. Yeah, yeah, we could make it a lot more open. I think. Are you ready to do
More
this
extreme
now?
close-ups. Oh my
More
god!
extreme close-ups. We're gonna have to have and now it's all in HD. We have to have
I need some powder.
powder. Yeah.
Thanks. 'Cause I'm
Yeah, our zits are gonna stand out.
my sheen is on.
Machine? Oh, your sheen.
My sheen.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Thanks.
Man, I think these lights are no good. I do need some lighting help for the new studio because I have no idea what to
I've been
do.
looking up some stuff. There's
Have
some
you?
cheap options on it.
Okay, good.
We'll get
So
it.
we really look washed out on this show. Every time I look at it, we look terrible. We're really great looking guys.
I'm dead though. I mean, I've got to tell them.
I think behind the camera is much better.
yeah,
You guys are
yeah.
super white.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
We're
white.
always really pale, but I don't feel that
White
pale.
against white. What
I
shit?
feel
What are we supposed to
sick
do?
when I'm on the show. And then last week, I don't know if either.
I'm not sick.
I don't know if anyone saw it last week, but I had just buzzed my hair that day by on my own, and I'm sitting there watching. Just like I wasn't even watching the episode. I was making sure we had everything to go to the episode folder, and I saw this like plug of hair standing out like this through the whole episode. Every time I turned to you, it's
Awesome. Awesome. I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
I watched
man.
it and I was like, nobody mentioned that.
Yeah.
Nobody was like,
I
hey,
don't
Jay.
think it was that bad. I don't think
Don't
it
worry
was
about it.
anything.
It's fine.
There's no mirrors in here. It's not like we can.
Did you
know.
see it?
That was a look you were going for.
It was
Like,
good.
man.
Episode 40.
I've got the
Yeah, just it's right there.
yeah.
It's just like a plug of hair.
0.2.
Like they just highlight that spot for the whole show.
I did notice it. Maybe because it was on the other side.
Yeah, it's always on this side. You may not have seen it. Scott had to have seen it though. All right. Hey, welcome back to part
Welcome
2
back.
of Fireside Tats, the premier fitness and muscle education podcast.
Man, apparently that's where the money is.
That's where the money is. It's not the
That's
tattoos. Fitness and fitness education.
I'll tell you something about your abs.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that's
I don't
not
give
the
a shit
truth.
about them. We were just talking about on the break how the six-pack ab guys on the YouTube videos that they're always
Millions.
the number one paid.
Yeah, and God bless them.
God bless them.
That's America right there.
They spend a lot of YouTube money and they make a lot of YouTube
That's what I'm
money.
about to say. They pay some people to do exactly what they wanted to do. Little
Yeah.
advertising, it works.
Yeah, but that's not why we're in this game.
No,
We're here to help you,
that's right.
tattooers.
We don't even have any like ShamWow products or anything like
We haven't
that.
we've never pitched a single
We
thing
do
to
not
sell.
pitch. Well, no, that's true.
We haven't. We've never tried to sell a thing.
Well,
We just give things away.
advice,
Advice,
absolutely.
love.
love connections. Yeah.
All right, let's go on to part
Love.
2 of this show. Oh, son of a bitch. All right. I got a second question, and we hit on tattoo collaborations briefly. Did we do a
Briefly.
whole episode on it, or we just talk about
I
it?
think we
But
just
it's-
briefly mentioned it.
Okay. So I got another question about tattoo, about collaborating with another artist on one tattoo, and so I dug in. I've been doing more research
Which I
lately.
think kind of links into our first part of the, once you get a good client and they want to like
Oh,
get
yeah.
you in with another art, try to get a. I think that's kind of an ode.
I think so. That could be a natural kind of.
Right.
That's a good segue.
I'm going to say it is.
It's a good segue from part 1 to part 2.
Go for it.
So I'll be the first to admit that I don't have really any experience in it. I think I know how I would approach it, and I've seen a lot of people approach it successfully, and I've seen some people that did not approach it or didn't have a successful result. I don't know how they were approached it.
You can just say
Fails. I've seen fails. I've seen good collaborations, so I jumped on the internet and just looked around to see if I could find anything that might stimulate my own opinions.
You've got opinions.
I have opinions. Sometimes I just need to see someone else's opinion, and I go, "Oh yeah, I know what I think about that."
Well, let's hear it.
So what I did is I went to the master, Guy Aitchison, and so I went because I had remembered. I look at his Ask Guy column from time to time because he's kind of doing the same thing we are and answering questions, and he's obviously a smart guy that's done a lot of really nice tattoos.
Super smart.
So,
Great books. Check his
yeah,
stuff
great
out.
books. Probably
He sells-
his Reinventing the Tattoo is probably the premier tattoo book ever made.
Can't go wrong.
So I mean, obviously, you can't go wrong looking at his advice, and that's why I bring it up because I don't want to act like all of this is our advice. But so someone had asked this on his Ask Guy whatever
He's done,
website.
He's done quite a few collaborations with people.
He's done a lot with big name artists. You know, he's
Huge.
done so people that have really defined styles that are easily recognizable, and so when that's the case, what I with someone like him collaborating with a Jeff Gogwe or with whoever Nick Baxter, he you have two very identifiable styles,
Right.
And if you just started stacking those styles on top of each other, you would go like, okay, Guy did that part, Jeff did that part, well, and you would see it obviously. So there's obviously an art to it that's beyond what you are doing, just putting on.
How to become one artist.
Yeah, that's really the trick. So before we run into this, go to tattooeducation.com, and on the left-hand side, there's an Ask Guy column, and 2 or 3 questions down is this. And now what I'm gonna do is I've made a few notes of things that I thought points that he made that I thought were pretty good points, and I thought we'd just discuss those points.
Absolutely.
Just to go kind of in. That way we're
No, I think it's a good idea.
we're not stealing from him. We're not claiming it. We're just elaborating. Anyway, so you have 2 guys, 2 girls, whatever, that hopefully have worked together, are familiar with each other's tattooing, familiar with each other.
At least their work. That'd be nice.
You hope that they have some compatibility, some level of compatibility for the client's sake.
Right. Maybe they are in the same shop, but maybe they're in the same city.
Yeah, maybe.
If not, that might make it a lot harder for you.
Yeah, it could be, unless you're doing something at a convention or something. But you found someone else, and you're going to do this this collaborative tattoo, and you found a client. So we're just going to glaze over all that.
Perfect.
Because I don't know how you go about finding that client. I'm sure that there are plenty of people that are willing to volunteer their skin. You should definitely be familiar with each other. I think you should. I think on the front end, you should probably know how the other person works and how what you do might meld with what they do.
Yep.
You should have some. You may not be able to visualize the tattoo, but at least like, okay, I know David does very fine line, detail oriented, tight rendering. So what do I bring to the table that complements that, or what can I do with that part of that drawing that he lays out? What can I do?
Just shade it out.
Just shade it out. Just
that shit
black
out.
over it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that's the first thing you have to do is really look at each other's styles, and then what would you do to basically make it yours, or how could you make it one style, and then agree on that a little bit. And that may be in the portion of like the lining, the shading, the overall, like maybe that beginning color stages, and then probably, like you said, picking the linear work beforehand, like who draws into what and how much texture you're going to put into where. I think you probably have to agree to all that beforehand.
So starting, how would you approach it starting with a rough compositional sketch? The sketch you think should go kind of back and forth,
I
or
think
should
so.
one person come up with an overall design?
I think if they've gone to somebody maybe first, if there's somebody that wants to go ahead and say, okay, I'll start laying out, like it depends on probably the body map too. Like if we're talking about a back piece, that's one thing. Talking about an arm, like you said, I think somebody that has to probably start and somebody perhaps finishes, and then hopefully in between is where you actually kind of meet and meld. If not, it should, like you said, maybe at least the overall concept. Maybe get in touch with each other so that you are going to at least do some of the placement on both. I don't know if you, like you said before, if you don't want it to be so one person over another person, that's probably the easiest way is don't let them figure out the whole thing together.
Whole part, and then try to push something against it.
And
so,
exactly. Yeah.
So maybe the
like,
drawing
you
kind
get
of
the upper part, I get the lower part. Now that usually, like you said, I think you could probably work right in between it if you,
Well, what
if you were serious about it.
Guy made the comment that he thought that the sketches should go back and forth, and when the concept is kind of worked out, that one artist should probably put together a master sketch, and then the other artist work on top. At least you're working from the same sheet of paper at that point, and put one on top of that. But I think it's all the same end result. Both people need to be involved in the drawing.
Yeah, and
I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to make them both involved.
I think at that point though, there's going to be somebody that probably does want to do one part more than another, and you should naturally let that happen. I mean, like you said, your master draw at the end should be somebody that's probably really good with their their linear rendering to
Yeah.
you could use it as a somebody I guess is going to start it, somebody's going to finish it. I think you can still work on your own styles into the same lines because I think you can always push and pull off of those later.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting certain textural effects and one person's better than another, absolutely, it's just to remind where that person's going to start the work and where you're going to maybe work into it.
I think so. That way you still have had some input on
Right.
how the texture sits or where it sits or where it's shown, and the other person can actually execute.
I think
it's probably
especially if you get to a certain area where you know that they're probably going to take over a certain textural effect, that's when you want them to have that drawing for that. And then you basically, by watching them actually draw it and see it in the thing, you get a better idea of how they actually probably going to render that texture too. So you don't get into like, that's the place I don't need to go into. I need to stick with this and push and pull off of each other. I think that way.
Yeah. I definitely think if you're new doing this, or what I would do as someone that doesn't do this normally is I'd like to work back and forth. Let's just use the two of us. So I'd like to work back and forth on the drawing with you, and then I'd really like to do a value study and make sure that we're on the same page as far
Probably
as all
all
that
that
stuff
color
goes.
pencil to start with.
And that's stuff that I wouldn't normally do in a tattoo that I'm doing on my own because I know how I approach everything. But a guy makes the comment in his column
where
that
do you get your overall darks?
How dark? Where are our darks? Where are our lights? I think it would be
have
really
to agree on that.
Yeah, it'd be really easy for the whole tattoo to get dark if you didn't know compositionally where your dark and light areas were. If there is a light source, where is it coming from, and make sure that you've agreed on that. And I think the only way to do that effectively is to do some type of a value study beforehand.
I think it would behoove you to do it before you even start the last line drawing.
For it.
That way you know exactly where a lot of those darks and lights should fall.
Yeah. All right. So that stuff I think that I have a grasp on how we would handle it.
Yeah.
Now
but how much of that do you
the
show the client too? I mean, of course, you probably keep them, informed.
Maybe keep them in the
I would
loop.
probably only wait until you get that last kind of rendered shading version before you do a linear one, and then because I don't think they need to see such a line version. I think the one that's if it's got any kind of gray wash, if it's got any kind of different color washes in there between, like if you're using certain, like I said, one person starting in one color pencil, the next person starting in another, and that way you work off each other. So you reminding yourself what parts you actually are affecting.
Yeah.
I think that would, that way you can stay in the same realm, and then you can actually see where other people are affecting the drawing.
Yeah.
Might help too.
Yeah.
And that I think you should show a client, But maybe the last in final line drawing, I don't know. Gets it out there.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if a client's probably letting two of you collaborate on them, they probably have some level of trust regardless. I'm sure you could probably break out Sharpies and just work on them and they would be comfortable. But
I have to admit, it'd be fun getting that drawing in the mail and be like, oh, it's like
it would be really cool.
Oh, I want to get to work on.
That would be cool. So you're actually sitting down and starting the tattoo. And here's where things can kind of go in two different directions. Hopefully, I think it would be ideal if you started the tattoo, if you were both there to start the tattoo. I think if you went through, I just think about the way that you lay out your lines, and you really kind of lay a gray line to represent most everything that you do. And I think if I got a tattoo, or if the person sat down and you had already mapped out every small detail of the tattoo, I would probably feel a little more restricted than I would otherwise, because we don't draw the same way.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like you would find places where you could stop and start. So if somebody's done a little more to the top and someone's done a little more to the bottom.
Do you think they should start at the same time? You think that would be ideal?
I don't know how. It would be.
They're in the same town, same shop.
Exactly.
Whatever.
It's hard pressed once you get that stencil on to try to put a stencil on again, especially if you've had to hand draw those stuff.
Yeah, whoever starts it probably needs to get lines.
I think you go ahead and that, or like you said, you pick a day where if they take shifts where one of them's doing it for a couple hours and one of them's doing it for another couple hours. Yeah. That way they don't get maybe burned out, but they can also push and pull some of the places that they affected in the drawing as well.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody does all the fine stuff and then somebody goes in and bumps everything back up and makes it a little more, say calligraphied or, at least line weight, a lot of line weight variation. If you're going to start just a line weight or line that time,
Yeah.
I think that's like I said, there's going to be a push and pull at that point too. Somebody's going to want to do one thing over another. Just work with that.
Yeah. I think that probably the areas of the drawing that you contributed the most to are going to be the ones that you're going to naturally go to try to tattoo. If you did start tattooing at the same time, I think you probably have ideas on both artists would probably have some idea on what they want something. Just like every tattoo that you start, you kind of know where you want to start it right from the beginning. You know, like I want to start right here on that beak that I drew that was right up front, or whatever it is. Whatever the reason is, you just know where you like to start a tattoo, and if you drew an area of the tattoo, I think you probably naturally come to that as a place to start it. A couple of points that Guy made that I want to get your opinion on was if you did start it at the same time. One, he said one artist should start first, and the second artist he thought should start several minutes later to kind of ease the client in, avoid shock from coming from two areas at the same time. I hadn't thought about that, but that's probably not a bad idea. And secondly, he mentioned trading seats at least once during the tattoo. He felt like at least during the first sitting, you should affect both artists should affect every part of the tattoo to make sure that you start off on the right foot and one artist doesn't get so far in one direction where they finish an area. He didn't say all this, I'm assuming this. So far in one direction where they finish an area where the other person really can't or doesn't want to go into it.
Right.
So that would be a little tricky for me because I have a tendency to really make decisions quickly in an area. You know what I mean? I don't ease into things. I usually make my decisions pretty quickly.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the piece. Where, like I said, if it's a panel-like piece, where if there's like say a main object and then background, someone that's like doing the background and someone's doing the main object, then you probably wouldn't have any. And that way, you get an idea of like, oh, I could go in and do these little pinning things, or I could.
Whatever.
Bold some lines up. Whatever you want to do. At least then.
At least you touched that.
You've touched it. You've gone and you've put your little your fingerprint there, and probably it makes it just a little more interesting, so you don't feel like because somebody's going to get the raw end of that deal. Like somebody's going to have to probably tattoo not upside down, but at an unusual angle, and that probably just makes it so you don't feel like you're you're getting the ass into that.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It really depends on the piece too and where you're getting it.
Yeah, where you're getting it, what kind of space you're dealing with, and something you'd have to plan out on the front end. If you don't want to be cramped
sitting in the
same
chair. That's exactly what I would do. Make sure that they really that way. Even if it's just for a couple hours for one person, a couple hours for the next person, or if they work at the same time.
Yeah. So I think all those are probably pretty good points. Obviously, you need to remember that there's someone else working, so you can't just move the person around as you need to. Yeah. You should be polite and say, hey, is it cool if I scoot him or her a little bit this way?
Well, I think if you're working with someone that's in the same vein and you're both, say tattoo artists to a certain extent, you're going to have to talk so much before that client ever gets probably there that you'll learn, who's going to need a little more space or who's going to work where. And so just, be aware of the other person. Be polite about it. But hopefully it's somebody Hopefully it's somebody that you really have like some kind of contact with and it's just not.
Especially if you're just starting it. It's like if you're just starting to do it, I think at this point there are a lot of artists that have done enough collaborations that they could bounce around and collab with other artists. But if you're to start, I wouldn't. If I were going to do a collaboration with another artist, it would be someone in our shop. Yeah. I wouldn't jump in with someone that I wasn't familiar with them and how they worked. It would just be. I feel like it would be tedious. Not that I don't want to see what other people are doing and I don't want to collaborate in drawings. I just feel like if you and I are sitting on opposite sides of a client, we'll figure it out and we'll both be relaxed and comfortable. If I'm at someone else's shop trying to do that, it would feel like work to me, I think. So
no, I agree. I think that's how you have to make it fun for yourself. I think you're going to get more out of it if you talk to the other artists and figure out where you're going to excel and what you're going to be, where you're going to have the most fun. Yeah. Don't tramp on each other's shit. It'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. But getting a client that's cool that that also is going to. You usually do have to pay for the artist's work and time and stuff. So I don't think it's going to be.
The thing is, and that's a good point to bring up as far as the pricing goes. Your hourly rate as a client's going to double, but the tattoo's going to be done twice as fast
and
too.
And
be badder asser. Yeah, I think that's probably true. And I'm glad you brought that up because probably something
Well-
if you're someone that would like to get tattooed by two people, listening to this podcast, you probably should be prepared for whatever $250 an hour or whatever,
Plus.
the $300 an hour,
Times two.
whatever it is. But moving at twice the speed
And probably, you're
getting
gonna
a
get
very
something
unique
very unique.
tattoo.
Right.
So, in that article, Guy mentioned that he had recently done a collaboration with Jeff Gogwe, who does some really, really nice kind of Japanese influenced. He has really his own stylistic kind of waves. And Guy mentioned that
Awesome painter.
Yeah, great painter too. Guy mentioned that that they collaborated on a tattoo that had waves and rocks in it.
Right.
And he said, naturally,
like
since
a
he
sea
draws a
scene,
lot of
right.
waves, he drew the waves, and then since I do so much organic kind of work, I did the rocks. But they made it a point to work into for Jeff to work into Guy's rocks and for Guy to do something in those waves, because he didn't want it to look. I mean, obviously, Guy Atchison's textures are very recognizable, and it's
Right.
like, well, that's the last thing I really wanted in that tattoo, is to have like, oh, those are Atchison rocks right there. That's obvious.
Right.
So Jeff Gogwe comes back through and does his thing too, and whoever has that tattoo has something that no one else in the world has.
Right.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing thing, especially trying to get, like I said, again, it's that idea of trying to get two artists to really become one, where they're one's is not just completely discernible from the other.
Yeah. He mentions the third artist in the room a few times, meaning that, there should be there should be something that comes from it that's bigger than the two. And hopefully whoever you're collaborating with, you like their work, you have some respect for them and the work that they put out. And I think that will make it easier for that third artist to show up, so you're not just like at those things we used to watch where everyone draws on each other's page and you just show up and erase everything everyone else did and redraw over the top of it.
Or worse, where it was just a tagger would show up and put his tag in every one of them. Like,
everyone
wow,
else's.
that really
right. You don't want to
that really
feel that
pushed
way
the
about
boundaries of that drawing. Thanks.
You don't want to feel that way about whoever you're tattooing with. It's like, get the fuck out of the way. Let me do that.
Let me fix that.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You're not fixing. It should be a collaboration.
Yeah.
Like I said, if
So
there's
the homework's
stuff
really
that
on the
there's-
front end. Make sure that you're collaborating with someone that you like,
Right.
that you respect their work, and that you can
and to give a little,
live with.
you'll get a
Yeah.
little. I promise.
All right, 41 minutes and 22 seconds.
I think it's pretty impressive.
I think that's pretty good. We got two huge subjects knocked out in that period of time.
I
And this
like
camera's
it.
probably
And
about to
like
go
I said,
out
and they
too.
kind of related to a
that's
certain
good.
degree. I like that. Where you end up having one that crosses right into the next. It's good.
Yeah, I think so.
How to build your clientele? Well, talk to a lot of artists too. See what they're doing. See what they're kind of. If
Man,
not,
definitely building a clientele today with online marketing. If you're willing to put a little time and effort into it, I'm sure you can watch YouTube videos and be way better. You could probably spend one night and be better than we are at it.
yeah, but I have to admit, I guess after a while, I get a certain clientele that I really
I was
like,
about
and
to say, I don't
they
really
get a hold of
market.
me exactly how I like to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
So.
I'm trying to learn to
In
market
person.
for this podcast, but I don't market for my tattoos, and I know you don't market your tattooing.
Not
So.
as much as I should. I should do more.
Yeah,
This
except
year.
for then you would have to do tattoos even more.
Exactly. And I have to admit, I don't like booking myself so far out that I just don't
That you
feel like
forget everything about the
it's like,
person.
I haven't talked to you in 3 months, so now let's do this piece. Great.
Yeah.
I like a little more hands
Yeah,
on.
and then you feel like the idiot whenever you walk out and they say your appointment's here, and you walk out and you're like, wow, I have no idea what this person looks like.
But, well, that rarely happens now.
Yeah.
That's another one of those. I tell people when you're first starting or when you're getting into it, control your book. If you say, "Oh, I didn't know this was going to happen," well, whose fault is that? You've had that book. If you don't look at it, that's not your. Like I said, if you keep it digitally now, if you keep it, however, if you still write it on a pad with a pencil, just make sure that's your book.
Make
If
sure
something
you know
pops
who's
up,
who.
every name, every person. If you can't, actually call them by name, I think that's
And you're good at stopping on the way out of the door every night. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I need to look at my book.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to look at my book.
No, this to make sure that. And that's another thing about just shaking their hand, look at them in the eye when you actually talk to them. It's strange how people just kind of avoid those just minor things.
Especially in an industry where 99% of the people in it are terrible at that very thing.
Right.
You set yourself apart if you can look someone in the eye and shake their hand.
Trust me, and you'll get a lot. You'll have straighter conversations. You'll get more out of the people. And like I said, if they do have any kind of misgivings or concerns and stuff, they're a little more honest with you, and they know that you're actually. I mean, I do give a damn, but they'll know I give a damn.
That's right.
Yeah.
FiresideTats.com.
Like us.
Like us.
2 thumbs up.
And sign up for the mailing list.
Especially on YouTube, if some new, please.
Yeah, sign up
See something
on everything. Follow us on the YouTubes.
Oh, and then send us if you got any suggestions. What kind of beer should we be drinking?
Yeah.
That's the next one. Modelo was this week. Thanks, Modelo.
You should send us beer ideas. That'd be even better.
That's what I'm saying.
Send us beers that we should find to drink on the show. You could even send us the beers for the show.
I'll take them. We will get you in touch with our stage manager.
Stage manager. Yeah.
Production man.
Production manager.
That's it.
That's Scott.
That's Scott. All right. Have a good night.
Have a great weekend.